a beloved roller rink, a famous haunted house.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. We are meeting tonight in a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Colorado. And can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Councilmember Fahey.
Here.
Councilmember Hefner. Councilmember Kern.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson.
Here.
Councilmember Cooperman.
Here.
Mayor Lay.
Here. All right, if you can join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We have tonight council members to swear in, two who are, well, all three are current council members, one of whom is going to be late tonight. So what we're going to do is to have the municipal judge, Judge Thrower, administer the oath to Councilmember Cooperman and to Councilmember Kern. And then we will, after the executive session, have the city clerk administer the oath to Councilmember Hefner, who should be here by that time. So if you two would go to the dais there, I think that's kind of the way we have done it.
So you can follow along.
Yeah,
You ready?
yeah.
Okay, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Josh Cooperman,
I, Josh Cooperman,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the ordinances and the Home Rule Charter of the City of Louisville, Colorado,
the ordinances and the Home Rule Charter of the City of Louisville, Colorado,
and faithfully perform the duties
and faithfully perform the duties
of the Office of City Council, Ward 1,
of the Office of City Council, Ward 1,
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Long time no see.
Long time no see. Another fun job though, right?
For sure. All right, ready?
Yeah.
Raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I, Judy Kern,
I, Judy Kern,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of
the
America,
Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the ordinances and the Home Rule Charter
the ordinances and the Home Rule Charter
of the City of Louisville, Colorado,
of the City of Louisville, Colorado,
and faithfully perform the duties
and faithfully perform the duties
of the Office of City Council, Ward 2,
of the Office of City Council, Ward 2,
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter. Thank
Congratulations.
you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Your Honor. Thank you. Okay, the next, congratulations and welcome back. The first,
Things have changed a lot.
I know, it's a brand-new council, it's a brand-new day,
New blazer, it's a change.
which is technically true. But the executive session is the next up on our topics. We are about to go into executive session, subject to the votes, on real property acquisitions and dispositions. And the city manager is requesting city council and city council convene an executive session for the purpose of real property acquisitions and dispositions concerning properties in Louisville only as to appraisals and other value estimates and strategy.
As noted on the meeting agenda, the city manager is requesting an executive session for the purpose of discussing real property acquisitions and dispositions pursuant to Section 5-2C of the Home Rule Charter and CRS Section 24640224A, specifically as to appraisals and other value estimates and strategy. Prior to entertaining any motion, the city clerk will read a statement required by the city code.
It is the policy of the city to conduct business and meetings open to the public. While in executive session, it is inappropriate to take straw votes, keep minutes, or to make any final decisions. It is the duty of each member to ensure that executive sessions are conducted in strict compliance with this ordinance, state and federal law, and any applicable provisions of the state and federal constitutions. If at any time the scope, nature, or parameter of this executive session goes beyond the publicly stated topic, it is the responsibility of the council to terminate and cease any further deliberation within the executive session and return to the public meeting. Only those topics described in city ordinances may be discussed in an executive session. Those topics are summarized as follows. 1, where federal or state law requires that the information being discussed remain confidential. 2, certain personnel matters involving only employees directly appointed by the city council and other personnel matters upon request of the city manager or mayor. 3, consideration of water rights and real property acquisitions and dispositions, but only as to appraisals, value estimates, and strategy. 4, legal consultation with an attorney representing the city with respect to pending litigation.
Regarding the authority for the executive session, Section 5-2C authorizes an executive session for the purpose of discussing real property acquisitions and dispositions, but only as to appraisals and other estimates of value and strategy. An executive session for these purposes is also authorized by the Open Meetings Law, Section 24640224A of the Colorado Revised Statutes. The request involves potential disposition of real property. With that, Mayor, you may entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing real property acquisitions and dispositions, and that the executive session also includes City Manager Diana Langley, Community Development Director Rob Zaccaro, and City Attorney Kathleen Kelly.
Second.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Kern.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooperman.
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner. Councilmember Fahey.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson.
Yes.
Mayor Lay.
Yes. Okay, we have 6 votes for that, so we will adjourn to executive session. There'll be a note up on the screen about that. We will get back as soon as we can. And in the meantime, just enjoy your time away from us. Okay, we've got a report from the city attorney.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, as noted on the meeting agenda, the executive session was for the purpose of discussing a potential real property disposition. The city council had such discussion. There's no follow-up required from the city council at this time.
Thank you very much. I'm going to make a motion around the agenda. As I said earlier, many of you were not present, and perhaps some of the people online. We've sworn in 2 of the 3 members starting a new term tonight. But one of our number is going to be a little bit delayed further, and we will arrange for his swearing in probably during a break. Oh, well, how about that? Did you get the sense that we were talking about Joe? Why don't we do this right now? I won't make a motion yet. You get sworn in by the clerk.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Dietrich Hefner,
I, Dietrich Hefner,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the Constitution of the State of Colorado,
the ordinances and home rule charter
the ordinances and home rule charter
of the City of Louisville, Colorado,
of the City of Louisville, Colorado,
and faithfully perform the duties of the office
and faithfully perform the duties of the office
of City Council Ward 3,
of City Council Ward 3,
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You want me to sign it right now?
Yes.
Otherwise, it can't be
I just got here.
All right, so I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. The next part of the discussion is public comments on items not on the agenda and items on the consent agenda. Please, if you're doing public comment, fill out a card and give it to the clerk at the end of the dais. When she calls your name, come up to the podium and tell us your name. Tell us whether you live in Louisville. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. You don't have to take the full 3 minutes if you don't want to. And if you are able to or want to pool your time with someone else or one or more other people, then you can do that. Just let us know. The person who you're pooling with has to be either in the chambers here and agreed to it or online and agreed to it. All opinions are welcome. please be respectful of one another to ensure that everyone feels welcome. Please refrain from any cheering or clapping, booing, or otherwise disruptive behavior. It's tough enough to speak in front of a crowd. It is somewhat intimidating when that happens. And the other thing I would say is that two other things. One is that council doesn't respond verbally here to public comments. Why is that? Because the items aren't on the agenda. And so we may entertain comments in a subsequent meeting if an item is on the agenda, but we don't do it here. So the fact that we're not responding doesn't mean we agree, disagree, or whatnot. The other thing is that I suspect, though I don't know, that a number of you are here for the Coal Creek Village matter. That is on for first reading only. First reading is when the staff will make a presentation, and then we will ask questions from the dais, but it's not a public hearing, which means that questions can't be asked yet because, again, it's not on the agenda for a public hearing. When it comes on for a public hearing, and if we vote to send it to second reading, it will be on for public reading or public hearing, and all of those who are interested will know that because we'll provide notice in the ways that we typically do. So if you're here to speak on that either during that item or on items not on the agenda, we can't do that. And why is that? Because it's a quasi-judicial matter. We can only entertain comments and documents concerning that matter in connection with the public hearing. So when it comes time to have second hearing, again, depending on our first vote here tonight, then everybody will have an opportunity to see the same information the council sees, not, information from a first reading. It's just that one hearing. It's kind of complicated that way, but that's the reason why it works that way. So with that in mind, are there any public comments on items not on the agenda or items on the consent agenda?
Up first is Don Parcher, followed by Mark Cathcart.
Coming up here, what I would say is if you do mention or talk about something on the, that's not on the agenda, we will stop you from that because that's not what the item is. All right, there we go.
Good evening, Don Parcher, just over 11 years at 378 Grouse Court in Louisville. I want to thank the council and city staff for serving our city so well. Congratulations to Judy, Dietrich, and especially Josh. And Josh, I love that you reached out to Denise to set up a meeting to talk about her vision for the city and feedback she got from residents during the campaign. I'd like to provide a quick update on Neighbors Connect. I've talked about it for several years, but it's sort of, I'm getting there. We've been working for years to help neighbors, residents connect with their neighbors for all the benefits, from borrowing a cup of sugar to having someone watch your kids if you have to go to the emergency room, to we're dealing with climate change. If there's an evacuation coming up, get the word out. If there is an evacuation like wildfire, being able to contact neighbors to save your pets, break a window, whatever it takes. So there's so many benefits. And one I especially like is start talking in person, you moderate political discourse, which is always a good idea, I think. And then it also has a feature where to help residents connect on common interests, from skydiving, from agrivoltaics to zoology, and also on things that they can help each other with. I call them offers and requests. So I'm very excited. We got NeighborsConnect.org up and running, and we're organizing an event May 16th, hopefully, in Memory Square Park, where the idea is to connect residents with their neighbors, with people that can help them, with resources, information, arts, history, nature, and people they can talk to, like you all, about their concerns and their ideas. So I really appreciate the assistance I've gotten from the Chamber of Commerce, but also Iris Belinsky. I've been very pleased with the help there. And I'll be inviting government, businesses, and nonprofits. So, and a lot of activities to help people connect, name tags and beyond. So thanks, Council, for approving our request for a community event sponsorship. Appreciate that. So let's continue to work together to make Louisville a model for other communities dealing with climate change, affordable housing, biodiversity, and connected neighbors. Thank you, and take care.
Thank you, Doug.
I'll leave with that one.
You can make a clarifying comment.
Apologize, this is unusual. Just want to make a clarifying comment from the mayor's comments about public comments on items not on the agenda. You said the word, we will not stop you from saying whatever you want. You have 3 minutes from a First Amendment right to say whatever you like about anything. You can read us a book. I think the point the mayor is making is if you make a comment on an item that's on the agenda during public comments on items not on the agenda, your comments won't be considered or made part of the record for that agenda item. So while you can say whatever you like and you can talk about whatever you like, those items won't be considered. But you will have your 3 minutes to sing a song or say anything you want from a First Amendment right. We will not stop you from speaking. We just won't consider your comments on the item you might want us to be considering your comments on. So I just wanted to be clear so that we don't get in trouble for anything. And I apologize, Mayor, if but just want to make that clear.
Let me ask the city attorney to clarify, because what I meant was actually what I meant, although what I meant was not that I was going to go and physically restrain anybody to the extent that you're concerned about that. But interrupting, but I think it's actually the duty is greater than that. Go ahead.
Yes, I do think it's appropriate for the mayor to remind commenters if their comment addresses a quasi-judicial matter, it would be inappropriate for you all to receive comments on that prior to the public hearing. You all know not to consider comments that you receive outside of the public hearing process, but the other aspect of that is that the applicant has due process rights. And one of those due process rights is that they get to see and hear all of the comments on their application during the public hearing so that they can respond to them. And so by the council allowing comments outside of the public hearing process, it deprives the applicant of that right. The applicant's not here tonight because there's not a public hearing. So I would agree that I don't think the mayor's going to physically restrain anybody, but it would be appropriate to remind folks that it's not appropriate to comment on public hearing matters outside of the public hearing.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any question about that on council? Okay, good. All right.
Next up is Mark Cathcart.
Thank you. City Council, Mayor, City Manager, and staff. I'm Mark Cathcart. I'm a Louisville resident. Thank you for all your service to Louisville. Video is everywhere now, all the time. In the coming decade, we will see facial recognition everywhere as well, backed by artificial intelligence. There is every possibility that everywhere we go, we will be scanned and recognized by a central database of some kind. This is not hyperbole. It's not an extreme to make a point. Home doorbell cameras already offer this. I know our business, Access Control System, is offering it as an upgrade to its badge control system to recognize people not by their badge or PIN entry codes, but by their face. Seems harmless enough, right? We know that Louisville, Denver, and other state police organizations actually found out they were sharing flock data without advanced agreement. police departments across the country are starting to use video drones for surveillance. Implementing a policy will take staff time and administrative time. I understand this is at a premium and would like to encourage the City Council to make that time available. Much like a zoning policy for when, where and how a building gets built, a video and image capture policy should answer much the same questions and more. A policy would allow staff to conduct good faith negotiations with vendors. It will avoid unacceptable video or image use taking up unscheduled council and staff time in rear guard actions. And it will also put vendors on notice that if their systems, quote, unknowingly, unquote, allows sharing of such data that they would be in breach of contract. I've no real view on the lengths which businesses will go to exploit facial recognition and artificial intelligence, both for their own use and to sell their products. I suspect the city already has many such video and image recording systems. I note with interest that OpenSpace has installed something that looks very much like a video camera up at Heckler Lake. It looks so much like a video camera, it has a sticky label on the side that says it's not a video camera. What is it? What does it do? How is the data stored? Who has access to it? Is it shared? We all want to live in a safe city. I want the police to have the tools that they need. A video policy would allow us to understand why and how these decisions are being made, and like a zoning policy, if there are uses that require beyond the policy, the city can always hear an exemption. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Any other public comment? Okay.
No.
And I know we're making comments on public comment here, which we haven't done. If I sounded a little too harsh, I certainly didn't mean to. I represented the area where the item is coming from for many years, and I absolutely would encourage the people who are here because of that item to stay and listen to it, because there will be a presentation and questions by council, and that may help when it comes around to having a second reading and a public hearing on that. So with that, do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Josh, do you want to?
Yes, Councilmember Cooper.
I would like to remove item F from the consent agenda. It's the recommendations of applicants to appoint or interview for board and commission vacancies. We only received the recommendations this afternoon and the full information this afternoon. I, for one, have not had enough time to decide how I would vote on this item. So I'm suggesting that either we put it later on the agenda and take a brief recess before that, or we move it to December 2nd.
Do you want to make a motion to that effect? You don't have to repeat it. You
Sure.
just say-
So I'll make a motion to that effect, yes.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
And maybe clarifying, do we want to move it to later in the meeting?
I think that's fine, and then if later in the meeting we don't have time for it, we can
address
address
it again.
that. So it's at the end of the current agenda is the
Yep.
motion.
Yeah, okay. Right, so let's move on to council informational comments and committee reports. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I have two reports, very quick. I wanted to first thank our Economic Vitality Director, Vanessa, for a wonderful Economic Vitality retreat that the city held last Monday. And it was There were a lot of people there that gave us a lot of good information. There was the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Business Association, Workforce Boulder County, Small Business Development Center, the US 36 Collaborative Panel was there. And we talked about, or actually they talked about, I listened, to all of the opportunities that they have, all of the challenges that they have as different types of businesses in the city. And I just wanted to say it was a wonderful, the second time she's done this. I wish that there would have been more business owners there, but it was a productive meeting. And then secondly, I wanted to mention that I was also at the Rocky Mount Metropolitan Airport's open house and got a little bit of information, but it's essentially the same thing that they've been telling us all along, that they're really regulated by the FAA, and so federally, they do what they have to do federally. But other than that, it's pretty much up to them what they want to do for limiting flights or changing flight patterns or whatever. And so they are looking at trying to be a good neighbor to us and are looking at options for other flight patterns and also restricting time of day for flights. But that hasn't come about yet, so.
Thank you. Any other comments? I have three. One is that we, several days ago, had a fire in the open space that consumed about 10 acres before it was controlled. There was a lot of communication out of the Office of Disaster Management, which was very much appreciated, I think, by many people. Quite a number of agencies responded to that, including the Louisville Fire Protection District, to get that under control very quickly. It was out near Cherryville. So props to the folks who attacked that and put it out. The second thing is the Chamber of Commerce had a meeting yesterday at which I delivered a State of the City message, which the staff helped me prepare, and different council members had some input into that, and we'll probably post some information around that soon. The last thing I wanted to mention is something that I don't usually do. This is kind of a bully pulpit sort of issue, if you want to think of it that way, which is that mental health concerns are really important in our community and in many communities. I don't need to probably go into too much detail on that, but I can tell you that it's one of the most significant sorts of issues that our police department often has to deal with and address, at least initially. And they do a really good job, I think, of funneling people to services. And I know that the schools, and we have at least four young people tonight at our meeting, the schools do a pretty good job of addressing these issues, a better job than they used to, that's for sure. Monarch has a kind of, for lack of a better term, a room where students can go and to feel very safe, and to the extent that they're in the middle of crisis, there are folks there that can help. And I was very impressed. The Attorney General invited me to go to that one day and delivered some comments. He delivered some comments there, and it was really something to see that, and I'm happy about that. But I was also reminded, many of us have lost friends, family members who've taken their lives in connection with suffering that they were undergoing because of mental illness. And you don't ever remember that, or you don't ever forget it if you've encountered that, either yourself or friend or family. And I was reminded of that because one of our prominent business people took his life 3 years ago in our town, and it was devastating to quite a number of people, and very public, and a lot of public outpouring. And we hope that people will come forward when that happens to a friend, family member, medical professionals, whoever. And there is a number you can call, 988, that the state of Colorado runs, and it'll get you connected with somebody who can help, because nobody should suffer that alone. And we're a community that cares about people. And I hope you'll agree that this is an issue that, even though council doesn't have specifically powers to do things, except through the police, we support the efforts, and we just passed a tax that I hope is going to provide more services. So I'm sorry for going on about that a little bit, but it's really important, and I thought it was worth taking a minute to appreciate it. Any other comments by council members? All right. City manager's report. Okay, let's launch into regular business. First business tonight is resolution number 797, series 2025, a resolution designating the residence located at 1016 Main Street a historic landmark. We have a staff presentation tonight, I believe.
While Planner Daniels is getting ready, I just wanted to mention this is her first presentation to City Council, so I wanted to introduce Jess Daniels. She's our new senior planner, and she's working on all of our historic preservation work as well. So just wanted to introduce her since it's her first time presenting to Council.
Welcome.
Plug in? Are you plugged in?
I am, yeah, 1 second here, let's see.
Take your time.
Okay, great. Thanks for the introduction, Rob. Good evening, councilors. My name's Jess Daniels. I'm a senior planner, and this is a landmark designation request for 1016 Main Street. So for some background, 1016 Main is one of 12 properties in the city designated on the National Register of Historic Places. After a demolition stay expired on September 1st of this year, the city purchased the home using historic preservation funds on September 30th. The intent of the city, as the applicant, is to landmark the property and resell it. The property is currently under contract with a November 24th closing date, and the landmark designation is part of that contract.
Can she speak up?
So in considering the landmark criteria, the property meets the 50-year age requirements, as the building was constructed around 1910 or possibly earlier. It has a Queen Anne-style architecture type that is rare in Louisville. In terms of its physical integrity, the property has maintained its Queen Anne architectural style and front gabled roof, and the home has remained in the same location and setting since its construction, and it's likely a kit house. The social history includes significance with mining and Italian immigration history in the city as well. The Historic Preservation Commission held a public hearing on September 15th, and the HPC recommended approval of the local landmark designation. The staff recommendation is approval of resolution number 97, series 2025, approving the landmark designation at 1016 Main Street to be named the Petrelli del Piso House. That concludes the staff presentation, if there's any questions.
Council, any questions? Presentation, do we have an applicant?
The city's the applicant.
Pardon me?
The city's the applicant.
Thank you. All right, so we'll take public comment on this next. Do we have any public comment on it? All right.
I have none.
Then I will, do we have any discussion from council on this particular matter? First, Councilmember Hamilton, then Councilmember Cooperman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I just wanted to welcome Jess to the team. We're excited to have you on board. And thank you for the great presentation tonight on a really beautiful home in our town that we were able to save through our HPC funds and the great work of our staff. So thank you.
Just want to echo Councilmember Hamilton. Welcome, Planner Daniels.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, I'll close the public hearing, and can we get a motion? Yes.
I move to approve resolution number 97, series 2025.
Second.
Let's take a roll call, please.
Mayor Lee.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Fahey.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooperman.
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson. Councilmember Kern.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege to take a very, very brief break of about 2 minutes. Thank you for indulging for just a minute, a couple of minutes. All right. The next item is ordinance number 1906, series 2025, an ordinance approving the First Amendment to the North Louisville General Development
Mayor?
Plan.
Mayor.
Oops, Excuse me, it's the previous one. Sorry, my mind's wandering. All right, I need a deep breath for this one. Ordinance number 1910, series 2025, an ordinance approving a rezoning of the portion of Caledonia Place subdivision plat from commercial community and residential medium density to mixed-use residential, and approving an amendment to Exhibit A, land use plan exhibit referenced in Louisville Municipal Code, Chapter 1714, mixed-use zone district. This is on, as I'd mentioned before, for first reading and to set the public hearing. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do. Good evening, Mayor, Councilors, Matt Post, Planner on the Community
Can I
Development.
make one suggestion? Can you get that mic as close to yourself
Sure
as
can.
possible? And I'm going to do the same.
Might be quiet today.
Yeah. There we go.
See if this works. Is it better? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll speak up a little bit too, see if we can catch it all. Good evening, Mayor, Councilors, Matt Post, Planner, Community Development Team. Item before you tonight is first reading of Ordinance 1910, Series 2025, rezoning portions of the Caledonia Place subdivision plat from commercial community mixed use and residential medium density to residential mixed use, and amending Exhibit A, land use exhibit, which is referenced in Chapter 1714 of our municipal code as part of the mixed use overlay and Highway 42 revitalization area plan. The public hearing is tentatively scheduled for January 6th of 2026, pending council's decision this evening. We'll start with just a quick summary here of what the request is tonight so that all the folks here in the audience are aware. Obviously, this is a rezoning request, which is a part of a development application that was first submitted to the city back in January of 2021. So it's been under review for quite some time. The application is referred to as the Coal Creek Village development. It includes a rezone request and a land use map amendment, both of which are being considered tonight at a first reading. The application also includes a preliminary planned unit development, a preliminary plat, and a special review use, all of which, if approved, would enable development of the subject property after consideration of a final planned unit development, final plat, and special review use, which would come before the City Council again with a recommendation from the Planning Commission. Because the rezoning and zoning map amendments are approved and adopted via ordinance, both a first and second reading are required in front of City Council, with the second hearing, which is scheduled for January 6th, the actual public hearing portion of that application. And so for clarity, tonight's presentation will focus primarily on the rezoning and land use amendment, as again, those are the applications that require the first reading and are approved by ordinance. So we're going to focus on the zoning, on the rezoning piece, and again, the map amendment piece, although I will try to fold in some of the PUD items, but that will all be considered in its full entirety at a public hearing following this decision tonight. The prelim PUD and prelim plat and the SRU, or special review use analysis, was included in the staff report that is in the packet that was provided to City Council and that was published. That was presented that way for continuity and relevance to the rezone application. I wanted to be sure that the general public and the council were aware of the full suite of applications that are associated with this particular rezone request. The rezoning and map amendment, again, which would be followed by that PUD plat and SRU, would, if approved, enable the development of 188 dwelling units on this site, consisting of 4 sale townhomes, 4 rent apartments, 4 sale micro townhomes, and 13,534 square feet of commercial space, which would be proposed in 2 mixed-use buildings directly adjacent to South Boulder Road. You can see the PUD and site plan that is presented on this slide. The site is located generally at the southwest corner of Highway 42 and South Boulder Road. It is currently vacant outside of one developed parcel that is currently the home of Argentos Empanadas. If you guys are familiar with that location, it's actually its own separate property within this larger collection of what Coal Creek Village would be. It's proposed to remain in place. The special review use that I'm referencing, the application that is also being reviewed concurrently with the other applications here, would be for allowing a residential use on the ground floor of a mixed-use building in the mixed-use residential zone district. So again, PUD plat SRU would be considered at the second hearing, but I want to be sure that we're aware of what all the applications are that are associated with this rezone this evening. A bit of background here. So again, this application has been in review since January of 2021. It has been considered by the Planning Commission on 3 separate but related hearings, with the most recent hearing occurring on October 9th of 2025, where the Planning Commission accepted staff's recommendation of approval with conditions and added an additional condition, again, all of which are directly related to the planned unit development and to the overall development of the site, which is not on the first reading tonight. Prior to that October 9th hearing this year, the Planning Commission had considered the application on September 12th and October 10th of 2024. That October 10th hearing was a continuation of the September 12th hearing. At that October 10th hearing in 2024, the Planning Commission directed staff to meet with the applicant's traffic engineers and establish a new scope for a revised traffic impact study that was originally submitted with that application. That request from the Planning Commission was based on testimony and concern that was presented by the public and members of the community at both of those September and October 2024 meetings. Following those meetings, staff and the applicant met with the applicant's traffic engineers, and we agreed on a revised scope for the traffic study, incorporating some of the additional study items and concerns that were brought up at those 2024 meetings. When that was completed, submitted, reviewed, and accepted by the city, we scheduled that October 9th, 2025 Planning Commission hearing, which again just happened this past October, where the Planning Commission recommended approval of the entire application, which again includes the rezoning and land use map amendment. And so for some background for the property, I think as the City Council are aware, and I think some folks in the audience here, the property is located in the Highway 42 revitalization area and the Highway 42 urban renewal area. That designation also places the property in the mixed use overlay, which triggers the mandatory rezone requirement, again, that is mandated by the Highway 42 revitalization area with any redevelopment of the property. That mandatory rezone requires that this particular property and properties within the entire extent of essentially this entire area of town or the city presented here on the screen, rezone to either commercial community mixed use or mixed use residential. So this entire property, again, the Coal Creek Village property here, the full extent which is presented here on this exhibit, was rezoned from its original commercial business designation to MUR, or mixed use residential, and CCMU, or commercial community mixed use, in 2013. That was the result of a development proposal that came before the city that triggered that mandatory rezone requirement. In 2016, a final PUD and final plat was approved by the City Council, which allowed 51 dwelling units on this site and almost 30,000 square feet of commercial space. Again, that was approved in 2016. The applicant and the property owner at the time did not execute that PUD or record that plat, so eligibility for permit issuance on those entitlement documents expired in May of 2019. So continuing on with history a bit here, the purpose of the Highway 42 revitalization area is to encourage transit-oriented development to support an eventual rail station here in Louisville. While funding challenges, as we all know, have plagued the implementation of the B line from Denver to Boulder, real progress has been made on passenger rail service that would link the entire Front Range from Pueblo to Fort Collins, with a potential stop here in the city of Louisville. Feasibility study was completed in 2024 with participation from the city of Louisville and other Northwest jurisdictions. Following that study, an implementation plan was submitted to the state and funding sources were made available. So again, although the B line has lagged, I just want to highlight that the purpose of the Highway 42 revitalization plan with rail service is still very much in play with the Front Range passenger rail service. And so the primary proposal under consideration tonight for first reading is the rezone and the map amendment. So as stated, the property has actually already satisfied the mandatory rezone requirement. Again, that happened in 2013. So the exhibit that you see here on the screen is reflective of existing and current zoning conditions that apply on the property. The portions of the property that are highlighted in yellow are presented by the applicant for discretionary rezone. So again, this is not a mandatory rezone requirement. At this point, the applicant is actually requesting a discretionary rezone. The north central portion of the site and the southeast portion of the site that have the purple layer overlay are those portions that are zoned commercial community mixed use. The southwest portion of the site that has the highlight or the yellow overlay is zoned residential medium density. So again, the proposal from the applicant is for a discretionary rezone of these properties to allow for residential land uses. Residential land uses are not permitted in the CCMU zone district. So commercial community, in the commercial community mixed use zone district, the only permitted land uses are commercial, office, retail, general commercial land uses. The MUR district that the applicant is requesting would allow for all residential unit types and allow for a mix of uses beyond just residential. Our mixed use design guidelines actually require a mix of uses on this particular site, regardless of the CCMU designation or the MUR designation. Any site that's greater than 5 acres in size has to provide at least 2 uses. So again, the rezone request here would allow the applicant to establish more dwelling units while still meeting the 2-use standard with just over 13,000 square feet of commercial space proposed in the 2 mixed-use buildings directly adjacent to South Boulder Road. That southwest portion of the property that's currently zoned RM and is closest to the Little Italy neighborhood was included in the overall MUR rezone designation, just so there wasn't a spot zone outside of the property there, although it is contiguous with the rest of Little Italy. In the RM zone district, attached dwelling units or townhomes are actually generally permitted. However, the applicant has requested the rezone for that portion of the property as well to support additional attached units in that location on the version of the plan that is most recent that you all were looking at tonight was in the staff packet. This particular exhibit would come as part of the rezone request. This is a portion of the land use exhibit or the land use plan that was adopted with the Highway 42 revitalization area. You can see the version on the left is the current version that is reflective of the current zoning designations on site. The version on the right would be the amendment, assuming a successful rezone to the MUR zoning designation. I have 2 slides here where I'm quickly going to cover the plat and the PUD so that, again, the city council is aware of the type of development that the rezone would enable in this location. So the preliminary plat would formally subdivide the 10.7 acre property into 60 townhome lots, which would allow for the future fee simple sale of those units. 4 outlots on the site would include drainage, detention, and utility areas, and an open space and parks, and 2 private parks totaling just over 23,000 square feet in size are currently proposed under the current iteration of the plan. As part of this plan, the city would accept 1.2 acres of right-of-way dedication, which would allow for the construction of Front Street and the completion of Cannon Circle in this particular location Again, those items part of the PUD and plat application. The PUD itself, or the site development plan, would consist of 60 townhomes, 96 apartments, so 64 sale townhomes or fee simple townhomes, 96 for rent apartments, and 32 micro townhomes or micro style townhomes that the applicant has indicated the intent to sell. Apartments will be in 4 buildings on the north side of the site. The 2 centralized buildings would be mixed use buildings. Again, Front Street and Cannon Circle are proposed for connection through this site, although the Planning Commission did institute a condition for emergency access only on Front Street. Again, will be covered in detail at that second hearing through the PUD. The applicant is also committed to providing on-site affordable units pursuant to our inclusionary housing ordinance. Of course, that would be 12% of all units on site. And there would have to be an appropriate mix of unit types that would equate or be equal to the market rate units in both quality and size. And so jumping into just a quick analysis here of the rezone, we have a number of policies, or rather a declaration policy for rezoning, and only one of those policies needs to be satisfied in order for a rezone to be considered for approval. So staff and the Planning Commission have found that this particular application satisfies policy number 2, which states that the area for which the rezoning is requested has changed or is changing to such a degree that it is in the public interest to encourage a redevelopment of the area. Again, we're considering those 3 portions of the property that are not currently considered MUR and are proposed for MUR, that mixed-use residential. The applicant provided a market analysis from CBRE showing that both retail and office sectors within the larger Metro Denver and Boulder regions continue to struggle with retail and office, offering limited support for speculative new development. Retail conditions are generally stable but stagnant with modest new construction, and most demand is coming from small pad users like gas and convenience stores, quick service restaurants, and financial services. Larger format retail tenant starts have remained very limited. The analysis also goes on to show that office market continues its post-COVID struggles with vacancy at 27.4% and new construction for office starts at historic lows, with conversions and demolitions outpacing new office projects, and that would be Denver Metro-wide. Taken together, these trends indicate that large-scale retail or office development is not viable in the current environment. Again, that would be directly from the market analysis that was provided by the applicant. Here. We can move on to the next one here. So with there's the changing area piece that again, staff and the Planning Commission have agreed has been reasonably satisfied from a policy perspective. But I want to dive a little bit deeper on some of our currently adopted plans and how the rezoning would implement some of those plans. So the property is located within the Highway 42 and South Boulder Road Urban Center, as identified by our 2013 comprehensive plan. It's also in an urban corridor, again, as identified by the comprehensive plan. In that area, the plan emphasizes creating interconnected street networks, improving multimodal access, and encouraging buildings that are scaled to pedestrian experiences. The vision, I think, that is presented in the comprehensive plan for that corridor supports redevelopment with mid to high density multifamily housing paired with mixed commercial uses where appropriate. I think it's intended to evolve as a cohesive, walkable center with new street connections and smaller, more manageable development parcels. Overall, the corridor development type promotes the mix of uses, commercial and multifamily, that are proposed to reinforce the urban corridor pattern that is called for in the comprehensive plan. Staff find that the rezoning request satisfies the policies in the comprehensive plan. Some additional policies from the comprehensive plan that support the rezone. Again, our comp plan calls for a diverse range of housing options for different income levels and encourages reinvestment and evolution within existing and established neighborhoods. The plan also emphasizes that housing should help sustain retail and commercial areas where appropriate. Importantly, the plan also directs that higher density housing to the city's center and corridors. And again, so the Highway 42 and South Boulder Road intersections there would be part of that urban corridor framework. The plan also encourages the city to remain responsive to market conditions and pursue development that aligns with the community's visions. Again, staff find that the rezone request satisfies some of our comp plan policies here. Taking a look at the housing plan, the Louisville Housing Plan sets clear goals to increase housing opportunities for residential development in appropriate locations and expand and maintain access to affordable housing and diversify the city's housing stock through mixed use and mixed income neighborhoods. This application directly supports several key actions of the plan, including Action 1.1, which encourages the rezoning and redevelopment of underutilized commercial properties to create additional residential capacity, while Action 3.2 calls for expanding opportunities for multifamily housing, again, within commercial zones, which this rezone request enables. The housing needs assessment that's included as an addendum to the housing plan also highlights the importance of diversifying Louisville's housing stock to meet future demand. Again, staff view the addition of 4 rent apartment units, for sale townhome units, and the micro units proposed as a diversification of housing stock and satisfies the housing plan with this rezone. And with that, staff do recommend approval of Ordinance 1910 Series 2025, rezoning portions of the Caledonia Place subdivision plat from commercial community mixed use and residential medium density to residential mixed use, and amending Exhibit A of the land use exhibit referenced in Chapter 1714 of the Municipal Code. And we recommend that council set the public hearing for January 6th, 2026. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Are there questions from council members? Councilmember Fahey and then Councilmember Cooperman.
Yeah, I thank you for this report. This is very in-depth, and I appreciate that. I'm wondering, in the change in zoning, what would be the possible increase in the number of residences or the number of commercial spaces that could be potentially built on this property?
Just to clarify your question, Councilor, with the change in zoning is your question, not under the current zoning?
Well, what would the difference be?
So the residential would not be permitted at all in those existing CCMU areas. So that would be one of the primary differences. Is as of right now, the areas you see in purple do not allow residential at all. As for the amount of density that would increase, there are mixed-use districts actually require a minimum density of 10 dwelling units per acre and a maximum density of 20 dwelling units per acre in this location. I would have to do the actual exhibit math to determine how large those parcels actually are. But it would be, but again, the minimum 10, maximum 20 units per acre in that area.
Okay, and that would depend, it could be 10 tiny houses or 10 apartment units?
Correct. Yeah, we don't delineate between dwelling units so long as they're separate independent units. Yeah.
Okay.
Right now, as an example, the area in the north central portion that's slated for rezone there would be 2 mixed-use buildings there that would contain, I believe the number is 48 multifamily units in that area. And then the area in the southeast portion would be where the micro townhomes are proposed. That would be 32 dwelling units.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Council Cooperman?
I had one preliminary question, which was, should we limit ourselves to questions about the rezoning? Okay, that's fine. So I had one question about the parcel at the southwest, right, that is currently RM. So, you know, in the proposed development, right, there's like a road there, and so, and some parking, I think. So I'm curious, like, if we rezone that to mixed-use residential, that allows for more density in that parcel than the RM does?
It does, yeah. The RM district would allow the establishment of one dwelling unit per 3,500 square feet of space. I don't know how big that area is, but the density would be increased with the MUR district in that location.
Okay. And the types of dwelling units, is there any difference there between the?
Yeah, types of dwelling units through the MUR, I'd have to look at the code, but I'm fairly certain that attached dwelling units are permitted, that we would consider attached dwelling units in that location. But I'd have to look at our code for that, Counselor, though.
That's fine. I mean, I was a little curious because, like, I don't know, in the plans that you show, right? It's hard to tell. Well, I guess you can kind of tell like where the line is, but you know, because there's street and parking, the density there is actually somewhat lower. I don't know how relevant really that is, but I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, I think, to your point, there's a right-of-way dedication in that location that's not currently there. So that would eat up a portion of that property. And then there's a private alley that loops around with those parking spaces. So I think if we actually count that out, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe, 7 to 9 units that are achieved in that area. I think the other thing that I'll say there is, the applicant is pursuing the fee simple sale of these units. So I think we generally want the zone district boundary to be concurrent with the property line boundary. Otherwise, we'll end up with an odd condition or a split zone. It wouldn't necessarily be a split zone condition, but we'd have an odd condition. So I think part of ensuring that the development occurs and is appropriate with our policies would be to ensure that the entire site meets the MUR standards, basically.
Okay. And then another question. So we're also talking about updating that land map, right? And so are we, well, one question is, so if we update the zoning, does that sort of automatically update the land map, or is that a separate decision? And if so, what is the basis for making that separate decision?
Yeah, I would say your first is correct. We update the zoning, so we would update the land use map to reflect what the zoning is, yes. But again, this land use map was adopted with the Highway 42 revitalization plan to guide the mandatory rezones with any redevelopment of the site. Mm-hmm. So as of right now, the site is actually conforming to the Highway 42 revitalization plan with the mandatory standard. Mm-hmm. Again, this is where the applicant's requesting the discretionary rezone here. Yeah. And so we would update the land use map to reflect the discretionary rezone request.
Okay.
And I have some answers to the previous questions about the size of the parcel and the additional units. So the two parcels kind of to the north and east total approximately 2.5 acres. So if you apply the minimum of 12 dwellings per acre to the maximum of 20, the range would be 30 to 50 dwelling units. So this rezoning would go from no dwelling units allowed to between 30 and 50 dwelling units on those two that are now CCMU. Now, the property that's RM does allow multifamily. It has a maximum density of 12 dwelling units per acre when you translate that 3,500 square feet. So right now you're allowed to go up to 12 dwelling units per acre, including multifamily. So the rezoning would allow up to 20 dwelling units on that smaller parcel to the south. So you'd go from 12 to 20 down there, and then you'd go from 0 to between 30 to 50 on the two bigger parcels.
And I'll just make a correction there too. I said minimum 10 dwelling units per acre. It's minimum 12, I'm sorry, in the MUR district. We'll look for a minimum of 12 in the MUR district.
Okay. And so I just had one little follow-up. So the land use map includes roads. And I think even in the staff report, it talks about updating the road structure. So, rezoning doesn't establish where the roads are going to be. So how should we think about the new road layout?
I would recommend we discuss that at the second hearing.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions about it, just to be clear. I'm not stalling at all,
I would just add that the rezoning itself doesn't affect the road network at all. If this rezoning were to be approved, and even if the PUD were to be approved, the PUD may or may not be implemented. This rezoning would run with the land. It would not expire. So I think, understanding regardless, when you approve a rezoning, that is permanent, while the PUD and the land use plans may expire if the applicant doesn't actually develop the property.
Okay, any other questions? All right. One, since we were covering what we did earlier, these rules that I mentioned, these rules that I was talking about earlier about the quasi judicial matters apply to us too. So Matt did not come and physically restrain Mr. Koopman. I'm glad of that, but he can't go into that right now at this hearing, but we'll go into that in the second hearing if we vote to send this to second hearing. So do we have a motion?
I will move to approve ordinance number 1910, Series 2025, and send it to second reading.
On Tuesday, January 6, 2026 at 6 p.m.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. We look forward to that hearing on January 6th, hopefully, in the new year. Okay, next matter is ordinance number 1906, Series 2025, an ordinance approving the first amendment to the North Louisville General Development Plan at 2101 Courtesy Road. This is on for second reading in a public hearing, advertised on the Louisville website October 8th, 2025. Do you have any disclosures tonight about this one? Okay, good. Can we then, I'm going to open the public hearing. Can we get a staff presentation on this one?
All right. Good evening again, Mayor, Councilors, Matt Post, Senior Planner, Community Development. This particular item is a public hearing, second reading, which is approval of Ordinance 1906, Series 2025, approval of the North Louisville General Development Plan First Amendment to allow residential land uses at 2101 North Courtesy Road. This particular property is located in the Planned Community Zone District, and within that PCZD district, a general development plan is required to establish the overall framework for development, which includes proposed land uses, development types and densities, location of public facilities and open spaces, and a coordinated street network that is consistent with adopted plans and policies. The GDP functions as a binding agreement between the city and the developer or property owner, and it serves as the guiding document for any future development, subdivision, zoning review, or other that would take place on the property. The proposed amendment would permit residential land uses on the property where currently only commercial land uses are allowed. The GDP amendment would also establish yard and bulk standards, and those would include development regulations like building setbacks, building height, lot coverage, and density limitations. Again, those would be established on this GDP and would run in perpetuity with the property as this contractual zoning document. If approved this evening, it's important to note that the GDP amendment does not entitle or allow development of the site. The applicant would still need to submit a formal planned unit development for review, and a concurrent subdivision plat if necessary. Both of those items would be brought back to the Planning Commission and City Council for further consideration. So the site, again, is at 2101 North Courtesy Road. The exhibit on the screen is actually the original North Louisville General Development Plan. The dark gray areas are the full extent of that plan. The site in question is currently occupied by Louisville Boat and RV Storage, which allows for the outdoor storage of RVs, boats, and trailers in a secured and fenced facility. The existing GDP that regulates land uses on the property was approved in 1989 and originally covered 65 acres across the north side of the city of Louisville and allowed for commercial, office, residential, and mixed-use residential land use types. Portions of that original GDP have since been absorbed or incorporated into other general development plans, more specifically the Dakota General Development Plan, the North End General Development Plan, and the Foundry General Development Plan and their associated amendments. What's left of the original North Louisville GDP includes the subject property and the property that's directly adjacent to the east, currently occupied by the Divine Canine, and then some additional property on the other side of Highway 42. But again, the original extent of this original GDP has largely been eaten up by other GDPs with residential uses. Continuing on with the background here, the current use on the site was permitted under the Davidson Highline PUD, which also authorized improvement on the property to the east, which again is the Divine Canine. The property has been subdivided multiple times, most recently in 2021, which resulted in the creation of Lot 1A, which is on the east and occupied again by the Divine Canine, and Lot 2A, which is the subject property we're considering this evening. And I should clarify, both properties are actually part of this amendment, although the Divine Canine lot is not actually subject to any land use changes or bulk standards. It's specific to Lot 2A, which is this particular property here. As you all know, a concept plan was presented in October of 2024 with the intent of soliciting feedback from the City Council and the general public to consider the amendment to allow residential land uses and support a permanently affordable, deed-restricted, mixed-income home ownership community on this site. The concept plan presented envisioned 44 to 48 dwelling units at 14 to 15 dwelling units per acre. That same concept plan is included in the packet material by the applicant, but is no way binding on that applicant if approval occurs tonight. Again, it is simply a conceptual representation of what development may look like on that site if a GDP is approved this evening. Into the proposal. So the request is for the First Amendment of the North Louisville GDP to allow those residential land uses throughout the subject property. The GDP will include specific allowed land uses as part of this proposal. Those land use types include single-family dwellings and duplexes, multifamily dwellings, accessory dwelling units, and accessory structures. The applicant is also proposing a maximum of 51 dwelling units that could be built on this site, which would equate to a density of 17.42 dwelling units per acre for this site. I think I said this previously in the first reading. It's important to note that that density does not represent an upper limit or a minimum number that has to be built. It's simply the maximum that the applicant could build on the site. I'll let the applicant speak more about what their intentions are from a density perspective. I think they want to keep their options open if possible. The applicant has also indicated, again, that this GDP amendment, as I've said, is intended to facilitate redevelopment of the site as that permanently affordable, deed-restricted, mixed-income community. There is nothing on this GDP that would bind or tie the applicant to that commitment. So, of course, if this GDP amendment were to move through, it could potentially develop at 51 units that are not affordable. However, again, I believe the applicant's intent is to move forward with an affordable development in this location. And they can provide additional details. So the primary access point that's proposed here we will utilize the overall conceptual layout here when we review a PUD. So the primary access point is proposed off of Hecla Drive on the west side of this site. You can see it on the exhibit on the screen on plan left. And then there will also be an access proposed off of Calyx Avenue, I believe. I'll let the applicant confirm that, on the south side of the site as well. The applicant has concluded a conceptual common area. You can see that proposed here. That'll ensure that we're able to exact an open space and or a common area for residents out of this particular development. When a development does come through, we'll also look to our planned unit development standards, which require open space on any planned unit development as a condition or a requirement of approval. The general development plan also depicts, as we know, the future right-of-way dedication to complete Calyx Avenue. Again, I think the city council is aware, staff will ask for the full 50-foot dedication in this location, as there is a 50-foot dedication on the north side of this site and a 50-foot dedication on the south side of this site. There is nothing specific reflected on the GDP. There's simply a reference that a right-of-way will be dedicated in this location. Staff and the applicant would work through the details on what that dedication looks like and what any future build-out would look like and whether or not that's reserved for pedestrian and bicycle access or if it's a full build-out. But again, that portion would actually be considered and finalized at the subdivision plat stage and at the PUD stage. However, we want to ensure that it's memorialized on this general development plan so that we're able to receive that right-of-way dedication regardless of what the width or improvement ends up being at the actual development stage. So we can continue moving on here. And so this GDP amendment also includes bulk and dimensional standards, which are generally reflective of traditional townhome developments. So for example, 0-foot setbacks are proposed with those attached units. That would allow for those shared walls to be on 0-foot setbacks, and that allows for that fee simple home ownership model, so folks can own their own homes. There is no minimum lot coverage for properties, which again is common with townhome developments, and it allows for those townhomes to take up an entire parcel of property, and it allows those homeowners to own that entire parcel. That's common with townhome development. A minimum lot width of 20 feet is proposed. Again, a common townhome development, anywhere between 18 and 22 feet, I would say is generally in line with townhome standards. The setbacks include a 15-foot front yard setback from the public right-of-way, specifically Heckler Drive on the west side of the site, and a 10-foot side yard setback from the public right-of-way on the other side of the site. 10-foot side setback from Heckler as well. So it's a 15-foot front setback from Heckler, 10-foot side setback if there's a building that's oriented, that's not facing Heckler, but rather that's oriented the other way. We have worked with the applicant to consider a reduced 5-foot setback for principal uses from the Calyx Avenue right-of-way dedication area. This would be to allow for a full right-of-way width dedication if necessary, but then also to allow the applicant to achieve the density count that they're looking for in this location. That 5-foot measurement would generally come from the back of a sidewalk. I know I talked about this previously, but I just want to reiterate it. If we actually do build out a full right-of-way in that location, that right-of-way line would generally go to the back of a sidewalk. We'd have a full sidewalk, then we'd have a 5-foot setback from that particular location. Again, I think staff are supportive of that condition in that location to support redevelopment of the site in line with our adopted policies, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. Let's see, I think we can go ahead and move to the next slide, and I'll let the applicant talk a bit more about the setbacks as well. So in addition to those setback standards and lot coverage requirements, those bulk standards, the applicant is also proposing height limitations with a height transition zone with this general development plan. So the applicant requested a maximum height of 40 feet with those structures that may be built up to 40 feet to restrict it to the site's interior. That is highlighted in the exhibit on your screen in green, and that is called out as part of the GDP. So any building within that green area may be built to a 40-foot height maximum. Any other structure on site is limited to 35 feet tall. Again, just so council and the general public are aware, all single-family homes in the city are limited to 35 feet in height. That's the maximum height. A lot of homes in the Marshall Fire Rebuild area are close to that 35-foot height limitation from an average grade limitation perspective, just for an idea of what that looks like. I believe the applicant is requesting that 40-foot height limitation so they can include a gable roof form on their townhome products. Again, they could do a flat roof form with a 35-foot, and it would be flat roof, but if they're our method of measurement includes average grade to the highest point of the structure. So they could do a flat roof form. We discussed it. We felt it was more aesthetically appropriate to allow a 40-foot height limitation there so a gable roof form could be achieved, which is more in line with the general development patterns in the area. And again, the rest of the site would be subject to that 35-foot height limitation. So regarding density, again, 17.42 dwelling units per acre with a maximum of 51 total dwelling units. That would be, again, the maximum. The applicant has indicated that the final unit count may change and may be below that, but I will let them discuss that. You can see on the slide, we have two exhibits here. The first one is just a comparison of densities in the area. So Steel Ranch townhomes, you can see were built at 8.9 dwelling units per acre. The Steel Ranch apartments, or North Main at Steel Ranch, are built out at 24 dwelling units per acre. The patio homes at 5.5, Lanterns at 6.3 just to the north. So the 17.42 is a bit of an increase, but more in line with the Steel Ranch properties. But again, we'll look through some policy documents here that staff feel support a density of this number in this location. And so moving into the analysis, the property is located in, again, that planned community zone district, and it will remain in the planned community zone district regardless of this GDP amendment, although this GDP amendment will function as, again, that new contractual zoning document that will dictate land use allowances and densities on this site. All GDP amendments follow the same process and requirements as the original GDP approval. Our Muni Code does not have really any significant or thorough review criteria for GDPs, though we do have specific purposes that apply to general development plans. Those purposes include encouraging, preserving, and improving the health, safety, and welfare of the community through contemporary land planning principles and coordinated design practices, and then recognizing economic and cultural advantages of integrated planned community development that provides for various housing types and other land uses. Further analysis here, we reviewed our comprehensive plan, our 2013 comprehensive plan, and other adopted plan policies to determine applicability and conformance. Firstly, the South Boulder Road Small Area Plan applies and designates this property as medium density residential. Within the plan, the medium density residential is highlighted as between 10 and 20 dwelling units per acre. Again, this is part of our South Boulder Road plan. The plan also puts the property in the urban corridor designation. Again, that Highway 42 urban corridor designation that we actually brought up with our last hearing, that would be in the comprehensive plan. This is an urban corridor urban corridor with an urban neighborhood designation. So we have two designations, urban and neighborhood. And so the urban pattern is described in the comp plan, and that designation calls for interconnected street networks, multimodal transportation opportunities that would include development on smaller parcels, of which the density here would allow for smaller parcels, street-oriented building placement, and with an emphasis on pedestrian scale and massing. Staff find that the proposed density here is in line with urban corridor patterns and urban neighborhood patterns as defined by the comprehensive plan. That neighborhood designation, again, I said urban and neighborhood, there's a separate description for neighborhood. The neighborhood designation identifies preferred development types that are predominantly residential and then range from low to high density residential multifamily communities. So again, staff find that the proposed densities on this general development plan are in line with those densities that are contemplated by both the South Boulder Road Small Area Plan and our adopted 2013 comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan also includes housing policies, which would further support the density that's proposed on this site and the uses, and they include primarily Principle NH5, which is the encouragement of a mix of housing types and pricing to meet economic, social, and multi-generational needs of both current and future residents of the city of Louisville, and policy H51, which is to provide housing that meets the needs of seniors, empty nesters, disabled individuals, renters, first-time home buyers, and others through a variety of housing types, styles, and prices. We also took a close look at the housing plan and found that the proposed amendment supports the plan's three primary goals, which are increasing opportunities for residential development in appropriate locations, expanding and maintaining affordable housing for low to middle income households, including those in the local workforce, and diversifying the housing stock by encouraging mixed use and, importantly, mixed income neighborhoods with a wider range of housing types for various household sizes, incomes, and demographics. Continuing on with the housing plan here, the plan also includes a number of relevant strategies to assist in implementing the plan, and they are articulated through action items. Action item 1.1, which I think we've heard earlier this evening, is includes establishing criteria and identifying areas for zoning changes to support additional residential development, including rezoning underutilized commercial properties. I think as you are all aware, the GDP amendment would function as a rezone, is approved via ordinance. This is the second reading. Staff find that this GDP amendment satisfies and implements this action item. Action item 1.2 encourages considering offering a height bonus or additional densities for projects that include affordable or mixed income housing. I think the mixed income housing piece is a really unique aspect of this particular proposal that, again, we find satisfies an action item from our housing plan. And then the applicant's request for the 40-foot height limitation, which is interior to the site, allows them to achieve, again, the densities and product types that they are looking for in order to get the funding necessary to establish a mixed income home ownership community. And then action item 3.2 of the plan recommends expanding allowances for multifamily housing in existing commercial zones, and then considering standalone residential development in appropriate commercial areas. And so, of course, the request to allow residential land uses on the property that has historically only been used for low-impact commercial use. Staff find satisfies and implements this action item. The proposed amendment would permit the development type, again, which directly aligns with the city's adopted housing plans and policies. So in closing the analysis, staff find that the proposed general development plan amendment to allow residential land uses is consistent with multiple adopted plans and policies within the city, including the comprehensive plan, the South Boulder Road Small Area Plan, and our recently adopted Louisville Housing Plan. The proposed amendment supports key policy objectives that are contained within those documents, which include diversifying Louisville's housing stock, promoting mixed income and workforce deed restricted housing, and then providing additional opportunities where appropriate for our local workforce, and then encouraging the redevelopment of underutilized commercial properties and area where appropriate. And so with that, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this application to the City Council on September 11th, and staff continue to recommend approval of Ordinance 1906, Series 2025, amending the North Louisville General Development Plan, or rather the North Louisville General Development Plan First Amendment to allow residential land uses. With that, I'm sure the applicant has a presentation. Happy to answer any questions in the interim, however.
Yeah, do we have any questions of staff? Yeah, Councilmember Cooperman.
On the north side of the property, what would be the setbacks?
Let me see if I can zoom in here. Well, I tell you what, I'll let the applicant answer that question, if that's okay, because I think it depends on whether it's front, back, or side. So we'll let the applicant answer that question. That's okay.
And another little question, again, on the north side, do you know the size of the the region where it's limited to 35-foot heights?
I don't know the exact size.
Does it say?
Councilor Kubin, I'm assuming you're talking about the green area to the property boundary, like that measurement distance. I don't know exactly what that is. I'm happy to look it up, though, when the applicant comes up and I give you that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Kern.
Thank you. Thanks for this, Matt. There's a lot of work that went into it, or still goes into it. I just had a question. If we approve this with the 40-foot height allowance, and I think, Director Zaccaro harps on us all the time, if we approve it, there's nothing, or maybe I should phrase it this way, is there something in the plan that will say it is only to accommodate that architectural roof allowance? It is not for additional dwelling height allowance?
There's nothing in our plan there's nothing in the GDP that limits it to a gable roof form in consideration of that height, no.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I had just one question. I'm looking at Exhibit A to the ordinance, which of course is very, very tiny print, so I have it blown up on my page here. Are all of there are conditions that were placed on this? It was a planning commission, or that attached those conditions?
I don't believe it was planning commission, no, I believe those were staff conditions.
Okay, so those are incorporated in that. It's on page 1063, I think, is what and all of those conditions then are included there.
I'd have to take a look at that, Mayor. Can I answer that question for you?
You can.
Okay.
You can.
Maybe after the applicant presentation, I'll get the answer to that for you.
Sure. It does indicate some setback information there, but I'll let that, probably the applicant can deal with that as well. Is there anything else from council members? We can get the applicant up here to provide their presentation. That'd be great. Thanks.
Not the concept plan, just that, it's good. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Eric Hartranft, 950 Spruce Street here in Louisville. And I'm Hartranft Associates, the planner and architect. And the applicant is Thistle Housing, represented by Michael Reese, who's here. And Paul D'Angelo is online, maybe? So if you see him there and he wants to speak, I think he'll raise his hand. So we do have representatives of the applicant here for those kinds of questions as well. So a couple of things that came up real quick. So the setback to the north, we have a setback to an alley or a private drive that is essentially zero. So if there's a drive, it's going to have to be 26 feet wide. So effectively, you'd have a 26-foot setback, in terms of from the property line to the building in that case. The 40-foot height zone, it really is to give us the ability to do gabled forms. I wouldn't have any objection to a well-crafted, condition that's what it's for. Like maybe the ceiling of living space basically isn't made to go up that high. Only the gabled roof form of the attic. So I think we could say that the eaves maybe would not exceed 35 feet. And that would, I think, maybe help your concern regarding that. And as far as that height zone, the green area that's depicted there, I would say there's a couple things about that. One is that from the concept plan a year ago, we've had a lot of discussions with the owner about exactly what they want to build, whereas when we came in with the concept plan, this was kind of a what if, trying to bracket the I guess, highest and best use for the property with that townhome scheme that you saw in the concept plan. So I will tell you that all of the plans that we've looked at since then are a little less dense than that. Some are significantly less dense, some are a little less dense. So it probably won't look exactly, I'm sure it won't look exactly like that plan. I can tell you that for sure. So as to what it exactly will look like, we're not exactly sure. But we have a general idea of where circulation is going, where our open space is going to be located. So I would say that these are general guidelines that I would hope that staff can enforce in the PUD without hard dimensions. Just because we're not that far on the PUD design process to be able to give you hard dimensions. Obviously, in the PUD, if you see something you don't like, that, oh, I think you're outside your green zone, let us know, and we'll certainly address that during the PUD. A staff, I'm sure, would bring that up. So same thing with the open space. It's sort of moved and morphed over the last number of months. So that's the general size that we think it is and the general location, but it's not going to be a blob that is exactly that size and location. So those are just general guidelines. We don't really need to do a presentation because Matt's done a great job of framing all of this as he does. And I think that the issues are pretty straightforward here in terms of the GDP and the zoning for this. Obviously, we have to create these bulk standards, not quite knowing what we're going to ultimately want to build. But I think we've done a good job of sort of, like I said, sort of bracketing the outer limit of what could be built there. And you all received a letter from the Lanterns subdivision. They're on Summit View Drive, directly north of this property. And I know a lot of neighbors are here tonight. And I would just say that nothing in here causes us any concern or pause right now because most everything that's been brought up are things that we address in the PUD. Obviously drainage and grading and, not disrupting the historic flow of water. If we can, we'll even improve the flow of water that they've been experiencing. If we can manage that on our site, we're set up to be able to capture and convey all that stormwater. The ditch easement, obviously, we have to negotiate with the Davidson Ditch Company. And so that's just a part of our process. And as far as, we always assume there'd be some kind of a privacy fence. 8 feet is something we would have to negotiate a little bit. That has to be engineered specially to go that high. And it may or may not be appropriate visually. So it's something that I think we'll look at in the PUD. And as far as landscape on the open space, I know that's really in the city's purview, whether or not any landscaping could occur in that open space. So some of these things will certainly have discussions with staff and the appropriate people within the city and the ditch company about, but we certainly can't guarantee a lot of the details that have been asked for here, but we will certainly be looking at them in the PUD. Obviously, we'll have a full traffic report. We did a preliminary traffic report, which, in my view is fairly benign. And so I think that the full report will show that as well. I think that I'll let Michael talk a little bit about our home ownership and restrictions on rentals and things like that. Just, again, that's not really part of the GDP, but I think in terms of neighbor concerns, it's good to, address the things that they're bringing up. And then the last one that they brought up was Calyx Avenue, which has gotten a lot of discussion with staff along the way here and with others and with you during the concept plan. And I guess I would just say that we agree with the neighbors that the Calyx Avenue, connection really doesn't help anybody significantly here. I think driving traffic to the interior of a neighborhood instead of on Hecla, which is designed for a much higher traffic flow, intuitively, people, just not traffic engineers, but look at that and say, well, why would you want to drive traffic through the middle of a neighborhood when you've got this great road just half a block away that you can route that traffic to? So we'll be looking at that with our traffic engineer. But there is a key piece that we would like you guys to weigh in on tonight. And nobody likes designing from the dais, and we don't like to ask you to do that. However, I will tell you that a full city 50-foot right-of-way is a big swath of land. We can create a drive lane with no parking on the drive lane, and we can accommodate a good multimodal path within a 40-foot swath of land, and we can retain our unit count. If we put the 50-foot swath of land through there for a right-of-way dedication, then we are going to, from the plan that we're currently working with, we're going to be reducing that by 2 or 3 units, or having to create different kinds of multifamily buildings to replace the buildings that would be cut through with that. So I'd like you to think very hard if you really want that 50-foot right-of-way dedication. Our first option would be a public access easement 40 feet wide that you could put a multimodal path, you could put a full drive lane, 2-lane, drive lane through there. That'd be our first option. Our second option would be a right-of-way right-of-way reservation as opposed to a dedication. And that just means that in the future, if you want that dedication, then we can accommodate that. But 40-foot versus 50-foot makes a big difference in the site plan. Reason I'm asking for this tonight, which, might not be great from a staff standpoint, but for our standpoint, we have to create our final PUD to come next time with you guys. So our preliminary and final will be combined, expedited to one hearing at planning and one hearing at council. So to get that all designed and engineered, 40 to 50 feet makes a big difference. So it's just, if you have an opinion about it, would like to hear that and come with something that we believe you would support with our final PUD. So those are the things I wanted to say. I know Michael needs to address a couple things as well. So.
Good evening. My name is Michael Reese. I'm the housing consultant for Thistle Communities. I do believe Paul D'Angelo, the CEO of Thistles, is online, so he may speak after I have a few words here. Appreciate it. I'm glad Eric brought up the Calyx connection. I think you'll probably be hearing a little bit more about that in the public hearing when the neighbors speak as well. Appreciate them being here as well. Thistle Communities, just to make sure we kind of set the record straight, Thistle Communities is a nonprofit housing provider. It's been in existence in Boulder County since the late 80s. It's predominantly been doing affordable housing in both Boulder and Longmont. This would be the first project in Louisville. It has another line of business that's been very successful statewide, where they assist mobile home communities purchasing their mobile home parks. So they just started this line of business about 4 or 5 years ago and have just recently closed on their 15th, helped communities close on their 15th mobile home park to be converted to resident owned. So we're in the affordable housing business, have been for decades. This particular project is new to Thistle in that it approaches the missing middle AMIs between 80 and 120% of area medium income, which is sort of the nomenclature these days is the missing middle. You're seeing a lot of activity in the high-cost mountain communities in this space, and it's not surprising that Louisville and Boulder County are kind of in the same boat where missing middle product is severely missing. Louisville has none, never had a project that's missing middle. What it means is the land is held by the entity, deed-restricted properties, for sale vertical property with an equity share element. Kind of complicated, but it's been used on the East Coast in high-cost communities for decades. It's relatively new in many areas in the state of Colorado. Boulder has income-restricted home ownership product. So does Longmont and many of the mountain communities. So we've been at this quite some time in the below 80% space, but missing middle, this would be the first one under missing middle. We really do think this is a timely project for this community. The housing study came about right about the same time we purchased the land from the longtime property owners. Formerly a member of council was the person we purchased it from. So I just wanted to kind of introduce Thistle, make sure people knew that we're in the business. And granted, the GDP would probably not restrict it to be affordable housing, but that's the business we're in. That's what we're trying to do, is to garner all the resources that are at the state, local, regional level to produce a deed-restricted missing middle product here in Louisville. We think this is a perfect site for it. Thank you, Matt, for the presentation, and Eric as well. I think just to simplify it, when you go out there and you look, you go, oh, 3 acres of vacant dirt with some RVs on it. It is heavily crossed with easements and restrictions, so there's only so many square feet of buildable space, and every 10 feet matters. So and again, I've been in this long enough, making decisions from the podium's not my preferred alternative, but if you want to offer some guidance to us about whether it's important long-term for that neighborhood to have a 40-foot wide or a 50-foot wide right away, we would really appreciate guidance on that, so we're not spinning our wheels over the next 9 months as we go through the PUD process to have to redo some things and incur the cost appropriately to design appropriately for what the community will tolerate and what it needs. I will try to defer to Paul D'Angelo if I could. Has he raised his hand at all? I don't want to.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, thank you, Paul. Yes, loud and clear.
All right, hopefully not too loud. Good evening, everybody. My apologies that I could not be there tonight from a longstanding commitment to an affordable housing conference where I'm trying to learn even more about affordable home ownership and the funding to make it happen. But just quickly, I wanted to thank not only City Council, but also City staff and Matt for the presentation. Thanks, Eric and our own Michael for helping out with their part, as well as community members who've shown up to chat about this project. Even though it's just a GDP, we know that people want to see something in their community that they could be really proud of, and we're here to hopefully support that. Very proud of our reputation. I've been with Thistle for 4 years. We do affordable rental, affordable home ownership in resident-owned communities, and would love to be a part of the solution at the City of Louisville for their needs for housing, for a variety of incomes and income levels and jobs and careers that you guys produce there. So thanks for having me. I'm available for questions as things continue, and wish I was there in person. Greetings from Chicago.
Thank you, Paul. And one last note, in the packet, there's a note that we'll be handling the 12% inclusionary zoning on site. We've been working with Flatirons Habitat to deliver their product on this property along the southern edge, much where the bulk requirements are, where we've asked for some relief on the placement of those the building's design, overall design. So Habitat is prepared to look at their modular product that they're building at the Boulder Valley School District Habitat Factory down the street on Arapahoe, at least for the inclusionary zoning part of their product, and then as well as we're looking at their modular product for some of the units on the balance of the property. So it's really an exciting community-wide effort, and we hope that we've ticked a lot of boxes, and you can support the proposal in front of you. And we'll be back with a PUD hopefully within 9 months.
Habitat is here for questions.
Oh.
Should there be any?
Oh, there's Dan. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Dan, I didn't see that. Habitat's here for questions if you have any questions. Thank you, Dan. You're welcome.
Council members have any question before we go to public comment? Yes. Councilmember Kern and Councilmember Cooperman.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you. Thanks, Eric, for taking the time to read the resident comments. Thank you all for being here. I'm curious, from Thistle and Habitat, one of the items, and I understand it's not part of the GDP, it'll be part of the PUD later, but I think with everyone being here, it's part of the conversation. As far as how, like, the deed restricted and the allowance or the lack thereof or the requirement of owner occupancy and how that can play in and how that works, just to kind of lend a, I don't know if Habitat has things that they do with it or.
Good evening. I'm Dan McCauley. I'm the CEO of Flatirons Habitat for Humanity. When we build a home, we serve families at between 80 and 30% of AMI. When we build a home, it is part of their mortgage documents that they are required to live in the house while they own it. And then there is a deed restriction permanently in place so that it, in theory, if they are at 60% of AMI, when they purchase the home 20 years from now, when they would like to sell the home and move on, that home is then affordable at whatever 60% of AMI is for 20 years from now. Generally, that's how our program works.
Perfect. Thank you.
If Paul's on there, I can speak to the Thistle model. It's similar, and it's a deed restricted to the homeowner. Renting is virtually not allowed. Very extenuating circumstances for, go take care for an elderly person out of state for 3 months or something. It really is designed to be owner occupied, permanently affordable, and when they sell to the AMI at that time, restricted to who the purchaser can be at that time. And in this case, while Dan is speaking of the habitat below 80, which is satisfying the inclusionary zoning requirements, this model would be the 80 to 120 model in the out years.
Great, I appreciate that. And then when it comes to the height allowances, so you're looking at doing townhouse models for the non-habitat component of this, correct?
The homes that we're looking at doing are basically modular, factory-built, Boulder Valley School District habitat models. They're stacked.
Okay. So 2-story is what you're trying.
2 stories, and it really is about roof elevation kind of design criteria.
Okay, and then, so I think that answers it. So yeah, so 2 stories, like 10 feet for each, or 15 for each.
Yeah.
So one of the models that we're looking at actually stacks on top of a garage. So when we say 2 stories of living space, those are the boxes that he's talking about. But it could be that there's a basement, if you will, that you drive into. So on one side, it could be 3 stories and then 2 stories on the other. So 2.5 stories sometimes.
Oh, I see. Okay. So so a lower area, like where if there's like an incline or something or a decline, it would be on that lower side would be the drive-in. It just, when I was looking at these, I was trying to figure that out from the layout and how you're orienting. And I know that you're not at that point. It's just, it's part of the conversation in all the changes and that we're allowing. And I think to try to best represent some of the surrounding community needs, I kind of wanted to see if you guys could answer those. So I appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you.
I have a question, just to make sure we're staying on track. Some of the issues that I think Eric Hartranft mentioned concern PUD issues that are going to be dealt with on PUD. And I guess if you could, for the benefit of all of us, just remind us of, because GDP is a little more general. I want to make sure that we're focusing on the right.
So
tonight.
So the right-of-way issue in particular, let me speak a little bit to that. So again, staff's recommendation is that be left open-ended, and I think it is because, you know, with their development, maybe a 40-foot right-of-way is appropriate. But again, this zoning document would be permanent and run with the land, and if something didn't work out with this applicant and they sold the property, we may want a 50-foot right-of-way in the future. We don't know. So until the time they actually come with the plat to show their development plans and demonstrate how a smaller right-of-way would work, it may make a ton of sense, but a future land development proposal, it may not make as much sense. So by keeping the note as it is, it provides maximum flexibility in the future, but it doesn't stop you from considering more narrow, it doesn't define the right-of-way at all. I think what Planner Post mentioned was our standard right-of-way is 50 feet, and the right-of-ways to the north and south are 50 feet. So, you know, we'll continue to consider different options from a staff level, and you'll have the opportunity to consider different options when the PUD and plat come. But why limit that for future development if it isn't consistent with their plans?
Okay. Any other questions from, Councilmember Cooper?
Just to clarify that a little bit, so you're saying that at the PUD level, we could make an adjustment to, if we set the right-of-way dedication at 50 feet, we could make some kind of adjustment at that level?
Right. There's nothing that would require you to, there's nothing that would require them to be 50 feet. That's our city standard. So that's what we go in typically requiring. Sometimes those get narrowed for different reasons. So again, we don't have the actual PUD plan. We haven't worked through the details. I think staff, and especially our engineering department, which isn't here this evening, may have opinions or further information that would inform that discussion that you don't have tonight. So I think theoretically you could amend the GDP to determine the right-of-way if you felt compelled to. I'm not saying you couldn't establish the right-of-way width at this point, but staff's recommendation is to wait until the PUD and the plat for those reasons.
Okay, that's helpful. And maybe one other question. So there were, in the letter from the Lanterns neighborhood, there were 8 suggestions or requests. My impression was that, those are basically all things that we would address at the PUD stage. Is that also staff's impression or finding?
I'd have to pull that letter up, Counselor, and I can answer that question for you. Sure. Again, if that's okay.
Yep. Thank you.
I'll ask a clarifying question of Mr. Hartranft, which is it your impression that all of those conditions are issues that you're planning to deal with in the PUD phase and that they weren't problems?
Yes, 1 through
Except
6.
For go ahead.
7 is about the rental versus home ownership, which is doesn't get written into a GDP or a PUD typically. So I'm not sure where that one goes. And Calyx Avenue, if I were to suggest something that might, I agree with what Director Zaccaro has said about leaving it flexible, let them review our plan. Maybe we don't on our plan say Calyx Avenue right-of-way dedication is, that it will be a dedication because it might be some other instrument. So if we could just say dedication or easement or, something, right-of-way extension reservation or something, I think it would give us some flexibility because, yeah, right-of-ways in the city have certain requirements, whereas an easement doesn't. When you've got maintenance issues, does it get transferred over to the city? I mean, there's a lot of, for this little stretch of road, a lot of complications that we'd like to work through during the PUD process. So however you can craft that, I leave it to you.
I'll leave that open for right now. It sounds like there's some a little bit of either flexibility or wiggle room that may or may not be something that the residents are going to be thrilled with. But why don't we take our first round of public comment?
First up is Marty Kelleher.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Planning Commission. So very happy to hear all the conversation about the letter from the Lanterns this evening, because this is the group that helped compose that. And I think we have several more people online as well. So I came to speak on behalf of that group. I came to make sure that the letter did get received. It's obvious that it did. We also wanted to say that we definitely support the concept of attainable housing in Louisville, as long as it's done in a way that's compatible with our existing homes. Wasn't planning to speak to the items in the letter tonight because we do understand that they're applicable mainly to the PUD. But we did feel like it was good to get them registered now so that there wasn't a lot of surprises in the early stages of that process. And so if the project goes forward and gets approved, obviously we will stay involved and plan to make sure that our interests get thoroughly addressed, and we respectfully request that that happens. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Do you have any other public comment? Okay, any online? Does not look like it. All right. We'll take it back to council. We have 2 rounds of public comment on an ordinance, so we'll go back and forth a little bit. Council members have any initial comments? All right. Hearing none, we'll go back and give people a chance at the second round of public comment if there are any additional. Yes.
I'll take a few moments here. Marty
No
Kelleher.
more than 3 minutes.
Sure. Michael Reese, again, housing consultant for Thistle. Marty introduced himself earlier, and one of the things we did early on with the neighborhood group was we met individually with the close-in neighbors prior to a broadcast 750-foot invitation. This was back at the concept plan phase, so August of 2024, I believe Dan was there. And we will do that again. We just talked tonight about where we could meet with the Summit View, Summit Ridge neighborhood, basically everybody that's in attendance tonight, separate from the big broadcast of 750 feet within the radius of the required notice round, because they are the most impacted, and we recognize that. And the issues that, and Marty's correct, the issues that are on the letter, they've sort of been percolating since the day of the first meeting we had with them and through the concept plan. So it's good that they're sort of memorialized. We'll address them as we can through the PUD process. And that's it. Just wanted to say that we plan on meeting them individually.
Thank you, Michael.
Not individually, but together.
Okay. Bring it back to council for thoughts, and particularly on the right-of-way issue. Yes, council member Hefner.
I'll just say I have no objection to the 40-foot proposal, but I think it makes sense to do what staff requested of us and save that decision for a later day. But assuming our staff ends up on board with a 40-foot right-of-way, I see no reason that we would be insistent on a 50-foot.
Councilmember Kern.
I agree. I was thinking the exact same thing, that I'm completely in favor of reducing that. I do like the idea of it staying a right-of-way versus just an easement, in case future travel is considered like bicycle or something else that were within the community. But yeah, I would be fully in favor of taking staff recommendation just in case, to cover the bases that you don't develop the land and somebody else chooses to. But yeah, I agree.
Any other public comments? Yes, Councilmember Hamilton.
Not a public comment, but a council comment. I'm happy to. It's okay. It's been a night. I mean, first and foremost, I want to, thank you, staff, for the thorough presentation. I feel like, Matt, you needed like a deep breath after your last two presentations tonight. To the residents and the developer, this is the sort of conversation and collaboration that I love to see. Because in the end, I think we all have a common goal, and that's to see Louisville thrive. And by you all working together, I think we're going to achieve that and achieve a lot of the goals that staff outlined tonight. So thank you. This warms my heart. This is Louisville at its core working together, and I'm very appreciative of that, because change is hard, but it sounds like we're all moving in the same direction here, and just at least having the conversation. Like Councilmember Kern and Hefner, I am agreeable to moving forward with staff's recommendation as it relates to the right-of-way for Calix Avenue. I think, from a city perspective, trying to future-proof this as much as possible, because there's some unknown variables on our end as to what the future could hold. But it sounds like we're open to having the conversation with the current owner and developer of the property of what are some levers that we can pull to make this successful all around. So I'm on board with moving forward what staff is proposing tonight. So no changes to the GDP from my perspective as proposed.
Any other comments?
Okay.
Can we have a motion? Oh, yeah.
I was just happy to answer some of the outstanding questions that Councilor Cooperman had, if you wanted some of those answers, specifically as they relate to the letter that the Lanterns folks provided to us. Resolution of ditch easement encroachment, we will work directly with the ditch company. There'll be a referral on our PUD application, so we will have to find resolution, or rather the applicant will have to find resolution with the ditch company. They likely won't allow any encroachment in their easement. I'll just say that now. Certified stormwater and drainage plan, we require that with any PUD submittal and as part of our construction document submittals. Mitigation of rezoning and density impacts, I believe that the residents highlight that with installation of a higher fence and then a dense evergreen screening and vegetated buffers. Sounds like Eric and Michael are willing to work on those items, and we'll work to satisfy those through the PUD process. Independent traffic study and mitigation, we actually wouldn't require a traffic study for this particular use just because of the volume generated, but we will take a look at impacts there. We may ask for a letter just to confirm that. And then the owner occupancy requirements, I think Eric addressed that. And future consideration of the right-of-way, obviously, you all are addressing that at the moment. Just want to be sure that we covered that item for you.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Excuse me. Yeah, I would make a motion that we approve an ordinance approving the First Amendment to North Louisville General Development Plan at 2101 Courtesy Road upon second reading. If there's a second.
Second.
I'll speak in favor of the motion since I haven't yet. Mostly echoing Councilmember Hamilton's comments, but I think it's really fantastic progress that's being made, and this is just the GDP. And so what I'm hearing is, we want to give ourselves at the GDP level a little bit of room for error if this doesn't make it to the next stages. But this current plan with the current people involved, there seems to be a lot of positive energy towards doing exactly what it is you've proposed. And so I think as you're going through your plans and what you're trying to accomplish, that it seems like that's the direction you should be moving. I'm just a little concerned about the uncertainty that we're putting into a project by saying, well, we still want more, but what I'm hearing is we're trying to protect ourselves from a second plan after we approve this GDP, and we don't want your plan put in the GDP, but rather in the PUD, and that's kind of what we're supporting. So just trying to put a little bit of piece there that it seems like the direction from council is to move on with your project as planned, and the slight difference between staff and the applicant is fine. So with all of that, I would have otherwise maybe said, oh, let's just do what they're doing. But I support what you guys are talking about and trying to protect ourselves from potential changes. So with those comments, that's why I move forward and will be supporting it.
Okay. Any other comments? Let's take a roll call.
Councilmember Cooperman,
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner,
Yes.
Councilmember Fahy,
Yes.
Councilmember Kern,
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Yes.
Mayor Lay,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dickinson.
Yes.
All right. Keep working together. It is 8:19, and we have we've got a couple other matters, or a couple of other items, but I think this is the next substantive one. So I guess the question is, do we want to take a break or keep going? Well, it's a question about the next matter is whether and how we take up the consent item that was put over. So why don't we take a break, and then maybe after the break we can get some input. Do you need to take a break? No. All right. All right. Then we'll go ahead and address it. The item that was put over All right, can we get the doors closed? It's a little loud in here. All right. We'll call up the item that was on consent at 8F, and we'll call that 11D. This item is to address the recommendations and approve or disapprove or amend the list of recommendations and to pass the recommendations that we put together for boards and commissions. And we can either, why don't we take a vote or have a motion, and then we can have a discussion. Anybody have a motion that they want to offer? Go ahead, Councilmember Cooperman.
So I guess I would move that we put this on the consent agenda for, I think December 2nd would be the next meeting. And that's still ahead of the scheduled interviews, just to give us time to review it more thoroughly.
Second. Other comments? How many days after that? When are we doing the interviews again?
The interviews, we have booked either the 8th or the 9th, so you could do them either Monday the 8th or Tuesday the 9th.
Okay. We would still need to to deal with the recommendations, though, because we need guidance to be able to tell people who's going to be interviewed and who's not. So we would need to be putting this same item on the consent agenda sometime between now and then, right? True, but that gives, and what I'm suggesting is it gives people a fairly short period of time to get ready for those interviews, to decide whether we, well, yeah, I mean, if people are comfortable with that, we'll vote on it. Is there any other comment? Yeah, Councilmember Kern.
So were all the applicants told that the interview dates would be 8 and 9? And are you concerned about just about availability or preparation?
Don't worry about it. I think the question is how much advance notice we're giving to the applicants, but I don't know that that's a huge issue. Any other comments, questions? Okay, why don't we take a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's put it on the calendar. City Attorney report.
I have none this evening. Thank you.
All right, upcoming agenda items and identification of future agenda items. Does anybody have any? The only one that I suggest, and I think we can deal with this on a work plan basis, is the comment that Mark Cathcart made earlier about potentially having a policy concerning video. I don't think we need to put that on the agenda between now and the time we have our next work plan discussion, but it might be something that we could deal with at that time.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, I probably ought to get a sense of, is it okay to put that on the work plan list that we have? We have a fairly extensive work plan list, I think. Yeah.
So the only thing I would be mindful of, I don't disagree with the validity of the conversation. I just am concerned about staff resources. We're already, I think, beyond the threshold and really asking a lot. And so I'd love for City Manager Langley to weigh in and see like who this would come from. Like, would this come from legal? Would this come from the police? How would we, like, where would the resources get dedicated? And do we have the ability to do that then next year?
Police department. One of the things that we could do is survey what other agencies have in place. Then we would work with City Attorney's Office in terms of coming up with a draft policy for consideration. And then at that point, it would come forward to City Council. So it would require some resources in terms of whether or not other agencies have crafted such a policy. And then to tailor it to specific to Louisville. So it would take some time.
One, to that point, I think you're raising a good point that is true for a number of the issues that different council members have raised since the last discussion of the work plan, of things they'd like to have discussed, at least whether they get on the work plan or not. It would be helpful, for me anyway, to have some sense of what the time might be that it's going to take, resources it's going to take on a number of those items, to the extent you can without our discussing it. I realize that can be a little dicey, trying to anticipate 7 members of council.
Yeah, we're happy to add any items that council wants to discuss. I imagine at the February 10th ELT City Council workshop, as you've already heard from the ELT earlier this year, in terms of they are maxed out. And so it wouldn't be a matter of, are we adding, it's what are we shifting?
Yep.
And so reprioritizing. So that would really be the discussion. And some of these things may take priority over other things that are in place. So that would really be the discussion.
Okay. Good. People comfortable with that? Anybody have any problems with that? We all thumbs up? Okay. Pardon me? All good. All good. All right. Can you get a motion?
I move that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
At no charge, and they would replace them with a Y system, which would then upgrade it so that the entire city of Louisville is on this Y system. And the reason I'm so familiar with this, my dad started Louisville Electric in 1947. We did all of downtown, mostly the commercial side of it, and converted with